Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate day number 1286, 1286, Saturday, December the 5th, 2020. Thank you so much for tuning in. Okay, so again, like all of you, I'm just sitting back watching and trying to actually understand, not so much understand, but keep track of all the things that are going on, because we have like 5 or 6 states in play. We have 3 or 4 different legal efforts. We have efforts being made by the state legislatures. We have now the federal Congress, people weighing in the federal Congress. We still haven't had any of these cases actually, be heard at the Supreme Court, but that can't be far away. And at this point, it's starting to look like that may be something that's going to need to happen, because the state legislatures appear to be buckling. They don't seem to be able to get unanimous majority support of Republicans in these state legislatures to overturn the vote or withhold the vote or what have you. They're kicking it. It appears that they're kicking it can down the road. They went to federal Congress to do all this, but they don't have the votes there either. So it's looking more and more like, until we actually get a Supreme Court decision, because these state courts and state Supreme Courts and federal courts and appeals courts, everyone knows that they're not the last stop along the way. Everyone knows that they're just a stepping stone to get to what Trump's legal team hoping will be a major ruling from the Supreme Court. And so it's all politics and all that sort of thing. It's kind of what we saw in the 2000 election, where Bush was losing every legal case until he got to the Supreme Court, and then he won 2 legal cases in the Supreme Court, and he, of course, was sworn in, not Al Gore. Am I predicting that's what's going to happen here? Not necessarily. The number of votes is much, much different. I think in 2000 was like 6,000 votes or something. Here we're talking about, in some states, it's in the tens of thousands or 100,000 or whatever, so close to 100,000 in a couple of Michigan, Pennsylvania. So it's hard to say what's going to happen. It's just a complete, it's a fiasco, quite honestly. It's what it is. It's a fiasco. I mean, it's like we are literally a banana republic at this point. We are now at banana republic status. As I've been saying in all these videos recently, we are witnessing just an extension of the original coup. The original coup was the Trump-Russia coup. That didn't work out. They didn't stop. The very day after Uncle Bob the executioner puts out his report and basically says, no, we didn't find any Trump-Russia collusion, whatever. The very next day is when they started on the Ukraine impeachment coup. And as soon as the Ukraine impeachment coup ended, they began working on their next plot. And my guess is that's when they said, okay, when's the next shot? What's the next thing we can do? Well, the next thing coming up is the election. Let's do that coup. So now we're at the election coup. It's all a continuation of what started from day one. And even if they weren't successful, as they've been at this point, of so-called winning the election for Biden, and that's still up in the air. If that would have failed, they would already be working on the next plot, and the next plot, and the next plot. It will never end. It would never end. If Trump ends up being successful in the courts and winning the legal suit, and he ends up being sworn in on January 20th, they will begin on January 21st the next coup plot. Okay, so this is a never-ending thing. But at some point, you are supposed to reach a level at some point where the rule of law steps in and corrects things. The corrective measure is supposed to kick in at some point. Unfortunately, as we can see, there is no corrective authority at this point. That would be probably the Department of Justice, maybe the courts, but it appears that we now live in a banana republic, because this is all being allowed just to go on and on and on, despite the overwhelming, not just circumstantial evidence, not just hundreds of witnesses signing legal affidavits, but even proof of video, proof of experts, mathematicians, statisticians, every possible bit of type of evidence you could think of that you would need to make a rational decision to answer the question, was there massive election fraud? All the evidence you need to make that decision is already there. We had 6 hours worth of hearings, supposed to be 3 hours, turned into 6 hours earlier this week. You also had the hearings in Arizona. You've had the hearings in Georgia. So, and every day more and more comes out. And then, of course, last night, or night before last, we get this video that's released showing where they... Now, keep in mind, you already had sworn affidavits from multiple witnesses that says, here's what happened. But there was never any video evidence of what happened. But now we actually have the video evidence which supports the affidavit signed by multiple people about what happened there in Georgia. We now have the video which shows that they kicked the Republican workers out at about 10:30. They left 4 Democrat workers and the supervisor there. They continued working as they pulled the ballots of these black suitcases out, and each of those workers got a black suitcase, and for the next 2.5 hours, they did something with those ballots. We can assume they all went for Biden. You have this truck driver talking about, trucking, literally a couple 100,000 ballots, pre-filled out ballots from what, New York to Pennsylvania or something? I mean, it's, the amount of evidence that's out there now, if the state legislatures, the Republicans in these state legislatures in these states, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Michigan, Wisconsin, Nevada, Arizona, if they can't, based on everything that we've got at this point, if they can't at this point make that decision to stick together and nullify their electors, not send their electors, or simply vote to send Trump electors, if they can't reach that decision at this point, and it looks like they're buckling, like they're not going to be able to get enough Republicans to get that done. They've got a good number, but it's not enough. There are still too many anti-Trump Republicans, even in the state legislatures. It doesn't look like the state legislature path is going to move forward, unless there's a major Supreme Court ruling in the next week or two that would give them some confidence. But on December the 8th is when I think the states are going to have to make up a decision. And then on January the 6th, the federal Congress will have to make their decision. Now, I don't know that those dates are written in stone. I mean, the world's not going to come to an end if those dates are moved back. And maybe it would take the Supreme Court to do that. And I think that's an option maybe on the table. I think it's highly unlikely, but I don't think it's impossible that the Supreme Court could come out and say, okay, we have so many problems here. And that's what they should do. I mean, the way to solve this problem in my mind once and for all, because if this is decided on a state legislature just deciding to overturn a vote or not send electors to the federal Congress and leave it to the Congress to decide, or if it goes to the Supreme Court, if it goes to any of these paths, you're still going to end up with a president being sworn in with half the country believing he's illegitimate. It's, there would be no winners, 0 winners in this deal. It seems to me that the only way to resolve this and have people actually feel like we had a legitimate election would be for the Supreme Court to come out and make a ruling. And I'm not sure what case it would take to get there, or if they could even do this or would do this. It's just to say, okay, we have 6, 7 states in question that are being challenged. It's such a mess. We can't sort it out, and we don't have time to sort it out. We would be actually better to call for a special election in these 6 states where things are just completely challenged or undecided. A revote in these 6 states. A revote. And it would be a special election, no mail-in ballots. You could have an absentee ballot if, in fact, you request one and you got a good reason. Votes must be in by the election day when the polls close. No votes coming in after that. Postmarked after that will be counted. All the vote counting will be done by having a Republican, a Democrat, and an independent, Green Party, whatever, whoever is in the election, someone at each table where the votes are being counted. And you must have signature verification. You must be a registered voter. You must show proof of ID. In other words, a very strict special election. Just have a revote. That is the only way I see that you could actually end up with a result where at least ways the country can say, well, our guy lost because he didn't get enough votes. Now, enough legal votes by actual legal citizens. That's the only way I really see that you can avoid what's ultimately going to happen if we end up going through the state legislature or the federal legislature or through one of the courts deciding the election. Regardless of who wins, half the people in the country are going to feel disenfranchised, and whoever is sworn in, and again, January 20th is generally the date that we do that, but I don't know that the Supreme Court would say, well, we're going to have a revote in 6 states, and therefore it's going to push things back. So we're going to push back Inauguration Day to February the 20th or something. I don't know, just throwing it out there. But if things go one of the other paths, through the courts, through the state legislatures, through the federal Congress, whatever, you're going to have half the country believing that you had a fraudulent election. You're going to have a president sworn in who's going to be nearly impossible to govern because half the country will think he's illegitimate. And whoever that president is, he'll be starting his first term the same way Trump went through his entire first 4 years, which is to be a delegitimized president. And even if Trump were to win in the legal battles and stuff, he would start his second term the same way he started his first term, sort of as a delegitimized president. He would have done his entire 8 years with this cloud of delegitimization over his head. He will have never. That's not what's supposed to happen. He was supposed to survive the first 4 years, get reelected in overwhelming fashion, removing any doubt of his legitimacy, and then he was to go on and become president for the next 4 years and be able to put all that stuff behind him. If he is sworn in on January 20th, it's just a continuation. In fact, it'll be even worse as far as the delegitimization. But if Biden's sworn in, it's going to be the same for him. He'll experience exactly what Trump did for 4 years, a delegitimized president, because Trump supporters are never going to accept it, and Trump isn't going away. If the Democrats think they got rid of Trump, even if Biden is sworn in on January 20th, Trump isn't going away. He's going to be sitting down there in Mar-a-Lago on his Twitter account or whatever he does, Parler, whoever. He's going to be hammering Biden and the Democrats every day. He's going to be just dogging them every day. And I have no doubt in my mind that if Trump is not sworn in on January 20th, that he will start his campaign for 2024 the very next day. January 21st, Trump will start his 2024 campaign. And that would be my guess. And so he's not going away by any stretch. His supporters are not going to accept Biden. And hopefully Republicans in Congress will remember how the Democrats treated Trump, and they will return the favor. Now, I think most of them won't, because they're sissies and cowards and have no backbone. But the Republicans will likely and should likely win back the House in 2022. Now, what they should start doing over in the Senate is continuing on with the Hunter Biden hearings, Just continue right on. If Biden becomes president, just fine. Go ahead and resume the hearings on Burisma, on his China dealings, on Hunter, on the whole 9 yards. Build up all the evidence you can. And then in 2022, hopefully the Republicans win back the House. They certainly should. Then you immediately on day one begin impeachment hearings from all the evidence that you've collected. And then you ride his ass for the next 2 years. Just like they did to Trump. You can play the exact same game, and they better. But I don't think they will, because they just don't have it in them. That's not how they play. They don't fight. You have a couple, but even some of the better ones, Jordan and Gates and those guys, I don't even think that they would do it. I would do it. If I was the head Republican Speaker of the House, and we won back the Congress in 2022, the very first thing I would do is collect up all my evidence from China Joe and Hunter and Burisma and all this stuff, and I would immediately begin impeachment hearings, and I would drag Biden through his last 2 years through impeachment and hearings and that sort of thing. I mean, you got to play the game. You're in the swamp. You may not like the game. It's a dirty game. But if you don't get in there and fight, you will get your ass kicked. You cannot go be Mr. Nice Guy. If you came to Washington, D.C. to become Mr. Nice Guy, to get along, to reach across the aisle, you are a freaking idiot. You are a freaking idiot. No, you better go there to fight like hell and to defeat your enemy. These people are the enemy, my friends. And as I've been saying since day one on TowerGate videos, we cannot reason with these people. We cannot negotiate with these people. We cannot rationalize with these people. You can only defeat these people. They're trying to bury us. They're trying to completely bury us. And you see how hard they work at it. Republicans just don't seem to get that. And I don't think Kevin McCarthy has the stones to do it. And I'm not sitting there, neither are any of you. We have to count on this feckless loser, McCarthy. And asshats like Lindsey Graham. Let's not forget that, never ever forget this. Never ever ever forget this. Right when Trump was at the height of this whole Mueller investigation, the whole witch hunt, as this thing was getting really nasty, and the fight was over whether or not they could force Trump to be questioned by Mueller's lawyers, and this whole fight was going on at that time. That's when Lindsey Graham got together with a bunch of other anti-Trumpers, and they put together a resolution to protect Mueller and his investigation. A resolution to protect Mueller and his investigation as he was trying to lop off Trump's head, legally speaking, in impeachment, by trying to force him to testify, answer questions, so that Weissman and the boys could get him in a perjury trap. And Graham knew this. And Trump was never going to fire Mueller in the first place. So it was a stupid thing for Lindsey Graham to do. It was just political theater. But never forget, when Trump was in the height of the Mueller investigation, when things were really getting ugly, and this had come down to this fight of whether they could force Trump to testify or not, it was Lindsey Graham who got together with a bunch of never-Trump Republicans and put together a resolution to protect Mueller. Have you ever seen Lindsey Graham put out a resolution to protect Trump? How about the vote? How about the disenfranchised 74 million Trump supporters? Nada. Nothing. This man is a fraud. I continue to tell you he is a fraud. So are 99% of them. That's why we're in this situation, my friends. That's why we're in this situation. Because believe me, if we had some real staunch conservatives, libertarian types, if we had some real patriots with real backbones, if we had 435 or even 219 really is what we need, 219 Republicans in the House who had the stones of President Trump, or maybe Jordan or someone like that, believe me, we would not be where we are today. It is because of slimy, wimpy assholes like Lindsey Graham and Cruz and some of these other characters. This is the reason why we are where we are. Because these guys don't fight, don't know how to fight, don't want to fight. Well, why should they? What's in it for them? Nothing. Which answers the entire question. They're in it for them. Not for you, not for the country, not for the Constitution, not for the future, not for your future, your children's future, anyone else's future. It's only about their future. People just don't fight. So we get this video that's released, clearly showing the video evidence, and then they come out the next day and say, yeah, well, that's not exactly what it looks like. That was all legit. We'll explain it to you later. Yeah, well, no, basically, you kicked out the poll workers, you broke out the 4 briefcases, and now there's even a closer observation of that particular video where you see the same woman who was obviously running the show, breaking out the black suitcases. Now we have another video which shows a real close-up of her passing off in a very stealthy, sneaky way, passing off a flash drive to another guy. And doing it in a very, very stealthy sort of way so that no one could see it. But it's the close-up image that you get on the video. We can now see she's passing a flash drive to someone. No telling how many Biden votes were on the flash drive while they're counting ballots in the from the briefcases after sending home the Republican poll workers. And they're going to try to say, no, there's nothing there. You can't prove anything happened there. I mean, this is what we're dealing with. This is what we're dealing with. So common sense is supposed to kick in and prevail at some point. But there is no more common sense in the banana republic that we now live in. So based on this Georgia video, they immediately the following day, the Trump team filed a lawsuit to overturn the election there, and the governor was finally forced, that despicable governor there in Georgia was forced to come out and say that there should be a signature audit, but that he can't order it. It has to be ordered by the Secretary of State or Elections or whatever. That Raffensperger idiot. So that's what's going on there. We have the Pennsylvania representatives now basically, it looked like they might be the state legislatures that might be able to actually do something, but now even those guys have rolled over, and now they're kicking the can to the federal Congress. They want them to reject Pennsylvania's electors. And that decision will be made on January the 6th. No, it should be the state electors. If the state electors will not reject the electors, then why should the federal Congress reject the electors that are going to be certified by the state? What's their thinking on that? They caved. That's what their thinking is on that. We have multiple cases now that are supposed to be going to the Supreme Court, but we don't know what those cases are. I mean, I don't think there is a case going for the Supreme Court that is one massive general ruling as to whether or not there was election fraud in a coordinated fashion. I think these are all the constitutional issues, not the fraud issues. Which the Supreme Court may say, yeah, you're right, there was some people disenfranchised. But that's not going to cause them to make a ruling that will change what is currently the result of the election, which is that they say that Biden won. That's the problem there. It's the relief. You don't get the right relief. You may win the case, but you don't get the right relief. Yeah, we have Arizona also, the legislature there calling for a ballot audit. We'll see what happens there. Of course, we had more pristine ballots found in Wisconsin, the same ones that they found in Georgia and Michigan, exactly the same. Pristine ballots, no creases. They never look like they've ever been mailed in an envelope. They look like they were just printed right out of the Xerox machine. Don't know how many thousands of ballots there were there, but now they're finding those in Wisconsin, just like they did in Michigan and Georgia. Apparently, that's still not enough. And then, of course, the behavior of the Democrats and the Biden team and their friends. They're battling people. They're fighting these cases. They're threatening the witnesses who are coming forward. Why, if you have nothing to hide, would you be threatening people who are coming forward? Why would you be fighting these recounts and filing lawsuits to counter what the Trump team's trying to do to get an actual recount of all an actual count of all legal votes? Why is the Democrats, the Biden team, and their friends fighting getting a true result? There's only one reason they will be fighting that, and that's because they believe if the true result comes out and only legal votes are counted, they lose. That's why. So we do have a little bit of Spygate news. We had a story that came out day before yesterday where apparently Kevin Kleinsmith's lawyers, because his sentencing date, I think, is the December 5th, I think, which would be, I guess, today, arguing that he should not get any jail time because he's already suffered enough by losing his job. Well, apparently, John Durham is having no part of that. John Durham is saying, hey, wait a minute. Yeah, he lost his job. He should have lost his job. But I'm looking at this, and I think that there was serious political bias was the reason he did what he did. It wasn't a mistake. Political bias drove his decision. He should get the maximum. We've already walked him down 2 steps from what we could have got him on. We let him walk down 2 steps, but even walking down those 2 steps, jail time is warranted there, and we want to go for the maximum. So it looks like Durham wants to go for the max jail time for Kevin Kleinsmith. And that looks like he's not interested in discussing that. It's not up for discussion as far as he's concerned. He's not going to want to negotiate that. He's going to go into court, and he's going to argue to give Kleinsmith the max jail time because he believes what he did was politically motivated. We, of course, did have some Spygate hearings. I think those were either on Wednesday or Thursday. I can't remember. I did not get a chance to watch very much of that. Don't know that anything new came out that we don't know. And I don't think it even really matters anymore because I always don't think that there's much going to come of this. But what we did have, though, we did have 430 pages of Spygate documents released by Grassley and Johnson. These would be a lot of emails and stuff, more Strachan page emails, stuff like that. I haven't had a chance to even see that stuff. I think that everybody's so focused on the election and everything that's going on right now that no one's really had much time to actually go and look at much of that stuff. And quite honestly, I just get the feeling that a lot of people who've been covering the story know that, or feel anyway, that, it's very unlikely that anything's going to come of this. It's got that look to it now where it's been drug on for so long that generally when you see something like this drug out this long, it's to keep dragging out and dragging out and drag it out and drag it out till finally people lose interest. They no longer care. And then one day, a few years down the road, you get a little bleep headline that comes out, nobody charged or whatever. Nothing really happens. This is generally how these things are handled by the deep state. They lead you to believe that there's heads are going to roll, justice is coming. They have a big show trial. They bring in the big guns. They get a lot of media things going on, and then they start this investigation, which never is going to end. Someday it does actually kind of come to an end, but by the time it does, people have forgotten all about it because there's been a million other scandals that has come and gone before that time. This is how they diffuse the situation and get people like me to go away. And ultimately, nothing ever happens. And this is exactly what it looks like. We can remain somewhat optimistic, but, because people say, well, yeah, Attorney General Barr made Durham a special prosecutor. It's going to make it really hard for the Biden administration to come in and fire the special prosecutor or whatever. When Trump threatened to do that, or when they said Trump was threatening to do that to Mueller, they said, oh, if you do that, we'll have to impeach you. So, now, of course, Biden could come in and fire Durham, and of course, no, the Democrats would be just fine with that. Just fine. And the Republicans won't fight him. They won't fight him. Jim Jordan might. Matt Gaetz might, but it's too little. Not enough. Not enough firepower. We have a suck-ass bunch of wimpy, spineless, coward Republican legislators in the House and Senate, both at the state and federal level. I think that the tyranny just continues on and continues to get worse. The corruption will continue to get worse. Everything will continue to get worse and worse and worse. And some generation will have to refight the Revolutionary War. I mean, it's going to be 1776 all over again. Whose generation that falls upon, I do not know. But that's where it's headed. That's where it's headed, in my opinion. I could be wrong. We also had this very interesting email that came out from this DOJ deep stater who was deeply involved in the Spygate coup up to her eyeballs. She was a top-tier player who managed to stay out of the limelight for a very long time, even though I've talked about her quite a few times. Lee Smith's talked about her quite a few times. This Jennifer Boone, the DOJ person. And there's this strange conversation that we see now from the emails that were released. The strange conversation, they're talking about these WikiLeaks dumps from the Democratic Party dumps from WikiLeaks. And she's having this conversation with some other people. We don't know who because their names are blocked out. But there's this statement that she makes in there where she says, so, on Friday there was a bunch of DNC emails posted on WikiLeaks. That was our guys. That was our guys. Who are our guys? Who are our guys? Who is she referring to? She's certainly not referring to WikiLeaks. She's certainly not referring to the Russians. Is she referring to CrowdStrike? Is she referring to the FBI, the CIA, the DHS? Is she referring to Democratic operatives, people at the DNC, maybe an insider at the DNC, a disgruntled employee at the DNC? A disgruntled Hillary Clinton supporter? Or a disgruntled Bernie Sanders supporter, I mean? Who is she referring to? Boy, Grassley and Graham ought to call her in and ask her that one question. Who were you referring? Well, actually, there's a lot of questions you want to ask her. Jennifer Boone. So on Friday, there were a bunch of DNC emails posted on WikiLeaks. That was our guys. Very interesting. Will anyone follow up on that? No. No. So what is all this hearings about and all this type of stuff? Well, it's about the fact that they're terrified of losing the Senate, and they think that a lot of Trump supporters who are watching, having had the election stolen, it appears will be stolen from them, it's looking like it's going to be stolen, that they'll say, why should I bother going out and voting if my election is going to be stolen from me? What's the point? And the Democrat and the Republicans won't fight. What's the point in me fighting? What's the point in any of this? I might as well just become a Democrat and get on the gravy train. You know, if you can't beat them, join them, sort of thing. And that's got a lot of these Republicans frightened. So now they have to go out and pretend that they are fighters. And this type of thing. That's what all this is. This is all window dressing. Because the number one concern is always political, is these Republicans in the Senate, they don't want to lose their committee chairmanships. Because they benefit tremendously from it, personally. It's about their personal benefit. Not about the country, not about the issues, not about, all the things that could happen if the Democrats win the Senate. No. It's about these guys keeping their power and being the head of the committees instead of the Democrats. Because of all the financial benefits that come your way when you control the committee. It's all about them and their personal benefits. Not about you, not about the country, not about holding on to the Senate because we've got to stop the leftists. They could care less about the leftists. They'd sign on to it, lock, stock, and barrel if they thought there was benefit in it for them. This is all just more smoke and mirrors, window dressing, whatever you want to call it. It's all one big psychological operation. It is the Truman Show, and we're like the extras in a Truman Show. That's who we are. We're like the extras in the Truman Show, living in a banana republic. That's where it is. The only hope we have is that Trump is a hell of a fighter. He will not give up. He will not give in. But only through divine intervention will we actually see justice here. And if you believe in divine intervention, then you might want to hit your knees and start praying now. Otherwise, I guess we're all along for the ride. Enjoy the show. Thank you so much. I'll be back when there's more news to report. See you. Bye.